Good for
And
you.
we are live. There you go.
Yay.
It's Deirdre Diamond, the board member from Cyversity, is here with us today. Hey, this is Dave Elcock. This is the Cyversity Austin Impact Interview Series, where we have these really incredible conversations about the specifics and the focus around cybersecurity related to all things Cyversity. Today, I've had an opportunity to speak with Deirdre Diamond. She's not only the CEO of CyberSN, you'll help me say that correctly, of course. Right? Help me say that. But she's also one of the newly inducted members of Cyversity's Board of Directors. We're so happy to have her, and we're so happy to have her here today to speak with us. I'm actually broadcasting today from the Innotech Austin Cybersecurity Conference. Cyversity has a booth here today, and we're also doing a networking session with all of our members and folks from the community, folks from the security community, and from the community in general are joining us today to have a discussion around the efficacy of cybersecurity in the community and community awareness. But let me get back to the real issue that we're here today. We're here talking to Deirdre Diamond, one of my faves, and she is definitely here to talk to us and have an honest conversation about the employment industry, right? The employment, how things are really going in the employment industry. Deirdre, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm so happy to be with you. You're one of my favorites too. Always out, social service, helping students. I remember you remember being a student. What am I going to do? Where do I go? How do I get, like having somebody there? I had somebody, you had somebody. So I'm so thankful that you're out there being somebody to these folks.
It gives us an opportunity to live into our purpose.
Yes.
When we understand who we are and what our purpose is. Yeah. I've always told everyone that in the whole continuum of people, process, and technology, I spend my time on people. Yes. That's where I spend my time. Yes. But you know what, Deirdre, this whole conversation that you and I have been having off and on for a couple of days and years and such, it always focuses back on the passionate things that you're involved with around employment. Right? Yeah. The situation, the consistency, the opportunities, employment. I got a chance to read into your CyberSN's conversation or projections around 2025, but also a look back at 2024, the gains and losses around 2024. Can you, I'm a pragmatist. It seems like for the most part, there are only three areas, CISOs and security, ICE incident reports, and only three areas where there was some gains in. But can you dig more into that whole report that CyberSN put out for us?
Sure. Yes, absolutely. So this report is 3 years of United States job posting data for cybersecurity professionals. And we've been tracking that data again for 3 years. So it's really interesting to see what has been going on. I think that every cybersecurity professional knows that over the last couple of years, there's been layoffs like we've never seen before. Mm-hmm. And yet, one of the things that people forget about is that job searching and matching is broken. So unfortunately, it feels even worse than it is for everybody. So mm-hmm. the data is nice to have to see. Yes, it has declined, and that was terrible. And we were outsourcing near and far shore. But now things are coming back. Mm-hmm. And yet that doesn't mean that it's easy to find one's home. You know what I mean?
Right,
Meaning
right.
that job searching system is so broken that even with great data, there's still showing upticks. There's still people saying, well, I can't find what I'm looking for,
Sure.
So there's a lot of complexity to careers. And this is one, source of data to be thinking about, what's going on in the market. And so to your point, yes, a lot of change in the last 2 years, a lot of change.
Great. Just recently we had a we had an interview with a cryptologist that had just left the Navy. Well, he hadn't just left the Navy, but he was on our last interview. And he spoke about the fact that there seems to be a square peg, round hole conversation going on, where corporations are asking, or companies are asking for X. They're asking for X, but their profiles and their requests seem to fit Y. Is there a sort of juxtaposition or a difference between what they're asking for, what they want, and the qualifications and things that they're asking for to meet those needs? They seem to be inconsistent to some degree. Am I off track here, or am I?
Gosh, it's 100% on track. I've spent the last 11 years of my life committed to solving that problem, and certainly have solutions that organizations are leveraging. Meaning, when I say job searching and matching is broken, what I mean is a job description does not today, a typical job description that's posted out in the wild does not represent the job that needs to get done. It's not measurable agreements. It's not detailed. It's more so a persona of a human we think we want to hire is what a job description is. It's 3 years of this, 2 years of that, must have this product or that product. It's not a, hey, here's how much time I want you spending being an analyst, and here's what an analyst is for me, and then the other 40% is engineering, and this is what I mean by engineering. Like, that's not how job descriptions are today. They are at CyberSN, but not for the world. And so, this is the number one problem. And then you take resume and you say, oh, the resume can be whatever anybody wants it to be.
Sure.
And then we're matching garbage content to garbage content out there. And so, yes, he's 100% correct. It is a massive problem. It creates even imposter syndrome. It creates a lot of heartache. And even, and then there's the other part of it is that once people are employed, that whatever job they're starting is typically not the same job they're doing in 6 months, even 90 days, based on change of priorities and focus, people coming and going. And so this is our challenge as a society. It's to stay in tune with workload and the management of workloads so specifically that we can really understand our own capabilities, then we can understand our own needs. And this is the work that we do with clients. It's the digital era caused a lot of problems with the simple piece of getting together and staying together for employment.
And this, amid the fact that this industry, the security industry, the technology industry, has the highest job availability, right, on the market, but the lowest, it has the highest job availability and low unemployment, but yet we're still faced with the fact that we're not getting the right opportunities to the right people to fill the right jobs. And so, I mean, is this only a factor of corporations saying, I want this, but asking for that? Or is it that we're not training properly?
Oh, I think there's both factors in that. It takes a lot of time to train, let's say, a security engineer, security architect, even an analyst. Certainly an analyst moving into engineering, that's time. It takes time. And education prior to employment has not been strong enough, as we all know, not at scale, strong enough to get somebody into new to cyber at great numbers. And so we're struggling with training and developing and bringing in newbies at sort of scale level, because organizations don't have the time to train. And we're also dealing with, it takes time to develop folks. And then we're dealing with a common language issue, meaning a security engineer could be an IAM engineer, could be a cloud engineer, could be a SIM engineer. There's way too much complication to roles and responsibilities to be using titles as a way to be thinking about jobs.
Right.
It's so much more than that, and that's also an issue. So it's all of these pieces. It's not just one of them that's giving us this having roles unfilled.
Right. If we were looking at the industry to get, if someone was coming into the industry and they had requisite skills to be an analyst, where would they get in the industry? Where would they get the biggest bang for the buck? Where would they go? What sectors is it? Would it be third-party vendor risk management? Would it be where's the meat? Where's the best opportunities? I guess I'll ask that question.
The meat, the highest volume of jobs is what we call the defense category, and within that category, the highest functional role is a security engineer. I mean, so 2022, there was 85,000 postings. 2023, there was 67,000 postings. 2024, there was 64,000 postings.
Right.
And then, from there, it's security analyst. And, a lot of those people are probably engineers, in terms of that would be qualified for those jobs. And that's 61,000, 52,000, 45,000. So those are the top two. And then it's DevSecOps, product security. That's like, in the 39 to 36,000 number.
Right.
And then the big takeaway from the last year is privacy attorneys.
Yes.
Huge jump.
40% leap, I think you said.
Yes. Huge. Which, and the GRC category in itself is certainly growing, to answer your question, and organizations are investing in a lot more GRC programs for third-party risk and other reasons. But from the perspective of job postings, GRC, just, as an analyst, there was 10,000 postings in 2022, 6,700 in 2023, 7,600 in 2024. So that functional role is growing, even though the job postings have gone down, because all of them have gone down. It's just not in the same amount of people that's needed. Right. And so the engineers and the analysts and the DevSecOps, the highly technical roles, are still the majority of a cyber team, if you will. Sure.
Yeah. So we still have these jobs and these skill requirements and these position requirements, because even the figures that you just quoted, there was a leap and then there was a drop off a little bit. Whether it was a huge drop off or a minimal drop off, there was still a drop off. If they're not good, and then you're talking about the growth of GRC, which is like the growth of contracting or MSPs, outsourcing to MSSPs or MSPs in general. I think in one of our conversations, you mentioned that contracting has become or is becoming a bigger opportunity for folks that are unemployed, that they may be wanting to look in that direction rather than looking for a full-time job, at least in the now time frame.
Yeah. So we, the economic shift that started a couple of years ago certainly impacted, cybersecurity professionals being laid off, like it impacted a lot of people across all teams of organizations, particularly in tech companies that did layoffs. But then there was also an impact to the cyber community because of outsourcing for the first time at scale, nearshore and offshore. Sure. So sending analyst roles and engineering roles to other countries. That definitely is also why we saw the job descriptions decrease. Now, that all being said, organizations here still have people in the US and there's still work that needs to get done. And so when one doesn't have the hiring headcount for an FTE, they will use different dollars and do contract work, whether it be SOW or direct contract.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we do a lot in that space ourselves, and it's really just getting the money to pay for somebody from a different place, but they are not an employee.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, more of that happens every time there's an economic shift of a downturn. A lot of money is lost and switching hands is what this is, and that's what happens. FTE roles go on hold, and there's layoffs around FTEs. Everybody, it's a different tax, bucket, CapEx, OpEx as well, of where we're pulling money from, and so that's what happens. And so that's what we saw for 2 years. Now we're seeing the FTE market come back, which is why you're seeing this uptick in job postings, because most people don't post contract roles. They go through, firms like ourselves. It's the whole point is somebody else has to be the employee of record, and they don't want a direct 1099 experience either.
Sure.
So they go to a staffing agent like ourselves. So yes, the market has complicated things, and then outsourcing has complicated things, and
So what's your suggestion and recommendation for a person that is looking to either 1, enter, 2, transition, 3, upscale? Is it contracting? Is it full-time employment? Is it, and then Deirdre, even a further question, what industry? Is it manufacturing? Is it financial services? Is it medical services?
So I would say this, we're in an era of what's now being called skills-based hiring, which is you don't have to have a degree to get a job. You have to have skills, and skills means experience. That's what people really mean by skills, meaning work experience. So if I'm somebody trying to get into cyber, I'm going to do whatever to get work experience. There's nothing wrong with contract work. It's a great way to get in. And it's all about experience, period.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever we have to do to get that. And then in terms of industries, we're back in a place where everybody's moving forward. You can't stay still any longer. It's always a two-way, always a 2-year thing. And I've been doing this a long time. It's not my first recession, if you will. And after 2 years, people have to start moving forward. So again, under the get experience wherever you can, talk to anybody that's hiring. But if we want to target on industries that are thriving, well, luckily that information is easy to get. That's pharmaceutical. That's a lot of healthcare tech. It's a lot of AI and services company, managed service providers. Not the big service companies. They've taken a bigger hit than, in this, I'm talking like the big Fortune consulting companies, but consulting companies overall are thriving. And managed service providers. It's all about the experience, David, which is why we have to figure out this bridge. It's hard to get the experience. So if you're in IT, start talking to the people in security and asking them for projects, things that you can do to help them. Or finance, same thing. Talk to the GRC team, talk to the cyber team, tell them you're interested. Is there anything I can do for you? Any projects I can help with? That's a great way to get some experience.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you have lots of ideas for people on that too, right?
I always say, I think I agree with you. I always say volunteer your time. If you work with a company, volunteer your time to learn what's going on in that other division, in that other section. You're already helping them because you're there, and they don't have to go out and spend $150,000 to bring somebody in from the outside that may not work. You're there, you know the culture, make the transition, and then they can spend less dollars bringing somebody in to backfill you, which
Yeah.
so it's the Deirdre, it's the bench. You and I have said this before. It's the bench that it counts.
Yeah.
The bench
Yeah.
matters.
Yes. Yes. There's probably IT professionals and software professionals that don't even know they have security experience too, which is something that we have to point out to these folks, and there's ways to figure that out and how to improve your resume at cybersn.com, where you can make a profile and you'll answer questions and it'll tell you, do you have experience in cyber or not? And I would say that a lot of you do if you're in IT and software developer.
Yep. In this conversation, we haven't gone and delved into CyberSN. I got questions about AI and a couple other questions about healthcare I want to get to. But it would make sense just for a minute, Deirdre, to just take a step back and talk about Deirdre. Right? How did Deirdre get here? I mean, I really should have started there with you, but our audience knows that we have a wide range of conversations that we go through. I'd like you to share with everyone Deirdre and CyberSN and how you got to where you are as one of our board members, if you don't mind.
Yes, sure. So I founded CyberSN 11 years ago after having tremendous luck being hired out of college by two serial entrepreneurial men that I worked for 21 years. I strongly believe that my situation is because of that type of training and development that I got from these lovely humans. And so CyberSN is focused on workforce risk management, and that is everything from acquiring talent, developing talent, retaining talent, optimizing our cyber workload. We're a service and software organization, and we are super committed to solving these big problems of job matching, of understanding what our talent does every day, managing talent such that they thrive and have professional efficacy. We are on top of solving those problems. And I, being a woman and recognizing that I represent the under 1% of women that have founded their own organizations in technology and funded from their own success in technology, it really mattered to me that I got out and started getting involved in the DEI space. So I founded Secure Diversity right around the same time that Cyversity was founded, back when it was ICMCP.
Right.
And I joined forces with, Cyversity back then in terms of, showing up to events and helping get going.
I remember.
Yeah. And stayed in contact ever since. And certainly when I was asked a year ago to join the board, it was an absolute yes. I love the mission and the focus. We've got a lot of work to do to bridge these gaps. The work that Cyversity is doing and the education that it's providing is inspiring. And so, it's really lovely to work with people that want to make a difference. The world is hard. It's harsh. It's got a lot of ugliness in it. And I like to surround myself with people that want to bring joy to others as in employment, because it is the number one thing that we all get our safety from is employment, paying for us to be safe. Our money protects us. And so I'll show up any day to help with that.
Good. So, I mean, and this is really, conversation is really based around the whole theme of Deirdre and human people and human engagement and feeling and working to make sure that people matter. I'm wondering, to you, in this whole space of technology, do people still matter? There are new developments that tend to feel like people are becoming marginalized to a degree. But what's your take on people mattering? Do they still matter?
I think that there's a portion of the population that really believes that equality should be for all, and that nobody has more of a right than another to basic resources. But there's also a population that doesn't believe that. And so because of that, and more of that happening as resources become more and more limited and technology becomes more and more effective at, taking things from people. We are, in times that have a lot of ugliness around us. So I'd like to say people matter to everybody, and I can't. And history has shown that. That's not just now. History has shown it. It's a problem we have in society. Is freedom, equal opportunity, equal access to food and healthcare and housing. It's not a system that the system we live in does not allow for there to be other than winners and losers. And that makes me sick to my soul. And it's why I have to focus where I can make joy happen, because otherwise things are super sad and have been. It's not new.
Sure.
Sure. So we got work to do. So everybody focus locally, community build locally is the best thing that we can do. And that being said, there are corporations still today that are saying that they care for people and they mean it. And we need to stick with those people.
Yeah, here at the conference today, I ran into a gentleman who represents one of the organizations here. I don't know if I should mention them, but he was very clear about the fact that his organization has said that they will not remove any of the policies and procedures that they have in place. They're a well-known brand, and you could tell that they look at their brand and realize that the constituency or the folks that buy their products represent that population that may in some sense feel like they're being marginalized. So, that's just a commentary. I know that you mentioned a little earlier that in this whole conversation about equality and about people mattering, technology is moving in such a way that it is creating some confusion around that. I mean, AI is like really busting at the seams. I know we created AI, right? So it's man-made, yet it's creating some indecision. I won't say confusion. We're clear what it's supposed to do, but it's what's your feeling about AI as it moves to the front line in unemployment?
My feeling is that everybody needs to become technical to survive this shift of labor, because these AI machines will continue to get better and they will do more and more of the work that we all do, and we need to know how to work with them. It's not about, they're not going to replace us. We need to know how to work with them. We need to know how to make them efficient and unbiased and tools. It's a tool. I mean, the stuff that's already happened is, for some of us, it's a nice tool so far to make my email, look better before I send it. I'm not asking to give me the content. Just make it look better. I'm grammar and all of that, and save me a lot of time, But that's that kind of, and that makes a difference to my level of productivity on other big things.
Mm-hmm.
That example will continue to be, what happens for analysts and engineers and all of us out there. And so it'll be a nice tool. And I think we need to embrace it. We need to learn about it. We need to have our kids be educated in AI and be as technical as possible. I mean, at the end of the day, if everything's run by tech, there's still humans that have to care for the tech.
Sure.
Can't care for itself.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to be able to care for it, which means you got to have those skills. And I think about that in terms of these newer generations and what they should be focusing on.
Right. And so AI is going to continue to expand and evolve. However, it's garbage in and garbage out, and somebody's got to manage the garbage in and garbage out.
And the data
yes.
scientists, that's huge in terms of, keeping truth. We have a war on truth. We have a war on labor. We have a war on words, which is gaslighting. We have all these things that just create uncertainty and doubt and fear, and people are going to be needed to make sense of it all, and as well as business tools that are coming, to make us all more efficient. It is an interesting time, that's for sure.
Deidre, I'm broadcasting to you today from my iPad, so I'm not able to see on the side panel if there are any questions, but I'm going to ask folks if there's anyone in the audience, and we know that there may be a few, if not more. If there are any questions there, Deirdre, I can't see them. So,
sure. There was one question about a privacy degree, and how do we get a privacy degree? And that's, I think that the privacy attorney specifically is the big ask today. However, we are seeing privacy teams grow, or let's just say a privacy team actually exists, which is usually one or two people in the mid enterprise, size of a team, maybe a little bit larger if it's the larger enterprise, of course. So I would say, I don't have off the top of my head a name of accreditations, but I think it's a good place to look and spend some time researching on, for sure.
Right. But thanks for that question, whoever put that question in the chat. I'm sorry, I cannot see who that was.
Darcy. I know Darcy. Hi, Darcy.
Oh, I had Darcy Hernandez.
Yes.
Absolutely. I know him well, too. So the one of the other questions I had for you that was focused around this whole issue of AI is it's becoming all encompassing, and I know we have to focus our time on servicing it. Where do we get those? Where do we find those skills? Where do we find the training for those types of skills? Where do we get our best bang for our buck in training for those types of skills?
Yeah, right. That's a great question. It's such a new space. I don't think that that's been really defined yet. There's probably, a lot of training going on out there, there's certainly a lot of meetups. I know in San Francisco, the Dog Patch area, it's called the Dog Patch, and it's where all the AI firms are. And there's stuff going on every night in that town about AI. There's so many education institutes. I haven't kept up with them. I would say that software engineers are being in the traditional 4-year college degree world. They're getting access to a lot of AI experience, and that's where we see it the most, is in software engineering today. That's where it lies. And then for security, we're certainly securing those environments and penetration tests and, focusing on AI. Really, it's the software engineering space that's booming.
That's really the most, right. Yeah. And so software engineering being one of those spaces, do you think that places that are going to be affected versus whether adversely or positively, spaces like auditing, medical provisioning?
Yeah. I mean, I think that those roles are going to get a lot more support, and they're just going to be able to do their jobs more efficiently, faster. Technology is two things. It's either better, faster, cheaper, or it's completely innovative. And so completely innovative to replace a human would be impossible. You can't replace a human, but we can make their jobs much more focused and measurable and easy.
Mm-hmm.
Happens with income in this case, I don't know.
Sure.
I think about that often. But, whether it be an audit professional, an analyst, or an engineer, all of these tools are going to really support doing that job faster, doing it better, less mistakes.
Sure.
It's better, less mistakes. And then could potentially mean needing less people, but only needing less people for that particular function.
Right.
Still will need more people to, again, manage tools, manage technology, manage data, manage processes. We're going to use AI to be more efficient, more regular, more understanding of our jobs, and we're going to get more efficient. I do believe that.
Sure.
And efficiency isn't because people are trying not to be efficient. Efficiency challenges are upon us because we're in the digital era and there's so much going on that's different than being in the paper era, that we're just getting our heads around it all, like what everybody's doing every day. But I do think that we'll see call centers and sort of help desk ticketing issue, a lot of that's going to get solved with AI for sure. But you're still going to need support for all those thousands of tickets that aren't gotten to at all.
That's right. All those quote unquote false positives.
Yeah. I'm happy that we're going to have support, and I do worry about AI decision making. That's scary to me. Not so much replacing humans, because we still need the humans to program those cars or what have you. I mean, again, I'm not saying I'm glad it's happening. I'm just saying I can see how humans will just be used differently. But at the end of the day, what I don't like is AI being utilized for decision making, and whether that be business decision making, hiring decision making, law decision making, any of that. It scares me. Or when to strike in an adversary situation. All of that freaks me out.
Yeah, because AI thinks differently, thinks more pragmatically.
Or doesn't think correctly. I mean, we still, could like.
Now you're scaring me.
Yeah.
I was okay with pragmatic, but now
that's the part that's so frustrating. I still would like humans to logically think through big decisions versus, sort of the AI models making the decisions and everybody just saying, okay, we're going to do that.
Right. Wow. That has a certain amount of concern to it. One of the things you said earlier about finding your way into this whole security and cybersecurity realm through AI is becoming a person that provides support services to AI, whether that is managing the data, whether that is cleaning up the database or what have you. Are there, and you said earlier that quite possibly you don't know all of the answers around where to find the best mechanisms or tools or training to get there. I always wondered if the military was one of our best training mechanisms.
Absolutely. So glad you said that. I always tell people, go to usa.gov, jobs.gov. And I mean, it's the best training we have. It's where most of our cyber leaders came from, was Gov. And the other great thing about the Gov is that roles and responsibilities are more clearly defined, and how you get to the next level is clearly defined. Corporate America really isn't following that precision right now. It's one of the things I'm working on the most is that having career development plans for cyber teams for 3 to 5 years, and maturing cyber practices is a part of that. It's not separate. It's not like, oh, the career plans are HR and my cyber capability maturity plans are my job. No, it's all one cyber leader's focus. And so, when we have that kind of level of training and planning, people thrive. They love it. So the government has it the most. And I would absolutely be applying to government jobs. And the federal government was the first, and they did this last May. I was at the White House for this, where they announced their skills-based hiring, which means for the first time, the federal government is saying you don't have to have a degree for their jobs. And that's never been the case.
Yeah. The government, another conversation.
I hope that doesn't change over there. I pray that doesn't change, because we need more people getting in.
Yes.
There is a question in the chat, David. Let's Charlene. Hi. Charlene said, if I just completed my bachelor degree in cybersecurity, would you recommend that I go on to do a master's degree, or get an industry certification, or work and get some skills? And then Darcy commented, but before I read his comments, let's just answer her question, which is, what do you think? I'll let you go first.
Wow. I think I even saw Darcy's comments pop up, but here pop up on my cell phone.
Oh, good.
Yeah, certifications are great, right? I think they're even greater for the people that give them, right? I mean, if I'm SANS and I'm giving certifications, I do fine. But I do think that folks are hiring people for what they know, for what they can do, for their skills. I think certifications have a place and a great role, but I also think that, at this conference today, I met a young gentleman who's trying to find a job, and he started telling me, I've got my own home lab. I've created my own home network. I'm breaking and destroying and fixing things, and that's a great recipe for a person to be hired, because in absentia by themselves, they're creating an environment where they can work, break, and solve problems. So I think getting the certifications is great. I think she should go get some experience, get some capabilities, and find an opportunity with a place that'll give you that opportunity to get that experience, and then let them pay for your certifications. Right? Let them pay for your certifications rather than you have to pay for it out of your pocket. And let them pay for your degree too, by the way. Right? You'll be giving them a service. That's just my thought, Deirdre.
It's true. It's true. I think that this is such an individual situation, meaning how, if one can afford to go to school and not work, it seems like a better life to work and go to school is a lot, is my point. And one of the things we're dealing with is burnout and health issues. People are getting older. So I think it all depends on what you can financially afford as to whether you do it simultaneously or not. Experience does trump, certifications and degrees. However, I will say this, that in the Fortune 500, and particularly the larger Fortune 500, you can't get to the more elevated seats of leadership without master's degree.
Yeah.
People are not changing. They're not doing skills-based hiring necessarily at the top. So, degrees and certifications never hurt. What gets jobs mostly is experience. But again, the bigger the Fortune 500, the more that experience is important, but degrees are just as important. So it's possible that you can find something, but again, it's more about how do you want to spend your time?
How you want to spend your time, right? The other thing I remember clearly is that when Eric and I created, Eric Fermenter and I created the company Links. The reason we created Links is because we wanted to be able to bring enterprise level services to small companies, because we knew there were only 500 Fortune 500s.
Yeah.
Well, it was only 500 of them. We also knew that there was literally, even in 2008, there was literally $27 trillion worth of small business that we decided to turn our attention to and bring expertise to those companies. So you have a point there, Deirdre. It is without a doubt a bonus and a blessing and a requirement to have those credentials when you're working in a Fortune 500 space. And yeah, so I'll leave it there. It is definitely a credential. It's a bonus to have it there.
Yes.
Bonus to have it there.
And I think in job searching overall, it's really important to understand that there's different criteria depending on the size of a company. You know, titles work completely different depending on the size of the company.
Right.
And so there's just so much that one has to think about to answer their questions about certifications and degrees, and is what size of a company do you want to work for, and where do you want to do that down the road, what size of the company, and understanding the differences of money to those answers, you know, of income, and packages of, you know, the Fortune 500 is going to have stronger packages a lot of the time.
Sure.
Maybe not all the time. And so, you know, what does that say? That you're also going to work probably more hours. You know, the bigger one's teams get, the more time people work.
Yes.
And so I think people just really taking the time to think about those things to make their decisions is also helpful. So thanks for asking that question.
Absolutely. Are there any other questions in the chat?
I think we're good right now. I think we're good right now.
So anyone that's in the audience, please, if you have questions, feel free to ask them. We've got about 10, 15 minutes left before we close today's interview impact series. I wanted to ask a question about the economy, Deirdre. I mean, it seems to be very relevant to employment, and how companies decide if and when they're going to make any kind of acquisitions or address headcount, or even cut headcount altogether. I mean, what are you seeing from an economic point of view? I know you sort of led into it a little bit earlier, but I'd like to, if there's more that you'd like to share, please you know, go ahead and share that too.
Sure. Well, you know, economics really are governed by laws typically, you know, one way or another. And we saw recently the requirements from the SEC breach reporting and expanding FTC enforcements, and those things are causing those laws are giving us more business in cybersecurity. At the same time, as a country, of course, we're having more middle class and lower class squeeze. The price of goods, the price of housing, the price of food, you know, and so, you know, there will forever be this challenge that we're faced, and skills trumps all of this, meaning there's good paying jobs in cybersecurity. It's one of the things that drives me crazy about the outsourcing we just did. I understand we're in a world economy. I love being a world economy. What I don't like seeing is when we outsource these jobs, what ends up happening is we get a gap in our future leaders because they're not here. They're not, you know, they're being trained somewhere else. And so those folks become the leaders. And so we want the jobs here. We need to think about that. And so, you know, there are good paying jobs. These are jobs that people can build good American lives on, you know, and so I think I don't think it's going anywhere if we have the skills.
Skills is key. Skills is key.
Yes.
Deirdre, we're about 9 minutes out. I wanted to sort of come. First of all, thank you for coming.
Yeah, my pleasure.
I hope this has been a benefit to you. You do this often, but I hope this has been closer to home and more comfortable for you since you're a native of Cyversity or ICMCT. We both are.
Yeah.
You know, earlier in the conversation, I talked about that definition of the word love, right? I'll read basic. I'll give you what I got. I'll read what you said. You provided a definition for the word love. You stated love is the willingness to confront a problem, difficulties, so that dealing with the problem cannot be avoided. It cannot be deferred, and it cannot be put off. So, and so that it needs to be addressed. Can you speak in great detail about where did that definition come from, and how have you applied it today in your ongoing efforts with CyberSN, with Cyversity and the Day of Diversity, and your engagement with the board? I know that's 4 things. Right?
Yes. Yes. Well, I love that you picked that out of my keynote. It's really the framework of every business success I've ever been involved in, which is, and I was lucky enough to find that language in my early 30s from a transformational mind dynamics coach, which really was retraining my brain to deal with, you know, win-win communication, being accountable, all the things that you have to do to become a real player in business of accountability and execution. I got a lot of training from. And one of the things he taught was that if you really love someone, if you really care for someone, then you stay in conversations and you solve any disagreements. Because the minute you stop talking is when the relationship ends or goes sour and is forever, you know, not moving forward, moving backwards. And so, you know, love isn't sex. Love is, you know, the willingness to externalize our internal dialogue to somebody else and work through problems. And that gave me a lot of freedom, David, at a time when I was needing this more in my personal life. My business life was pretty rocking, and at personal life, you know, the same skills didn't work at home that worked at work, and I had to figure out the difference. And I found this training, and then of course I brought it into our businesses for others to experience, and it changed the game for us all, because there's a lot of ability to be you know, accountable in the willingness to speak what's on our mind and to solve problems is what makes business move forward. So I latch on to that. I embrace it. I like to avoid problems too. I'm not somebody that loves conflict. I don't enjoy conflict. So what I've learned is how to avoid conflict. And this is the number one way of avoiding conflict, is the willingness to stay in a conversation, the willingness to actually share what I'm thinking, not letting fear stop me from saying what I'm thinking, actually keeps problems at bay more than for what most people are dealing with.
Sure.
I for sure, there's no question about it.
Sure.
And so, yeah, love love in business has a place.
Sure, of course it does. It absolutely does.
Yes.
One of the things that I had heard recently from John Hope Bryant, who actually created this whole financial empowerment scenario for underserved communities, he said we can be better off if we listen, if we are not defensive. Don't be defensive when you listen. Don't be offensive when you speak, and endeavor to leave your opponent with their dignity at the end of the conversation, because it engenders an opportunity to have more conversations. Yes. And so, and then you're able to, you know, and that's the beginning of exercising love, because if you start there with the positive stuff and work into just solving the problem. I think it's great. And I think that's something that's critical in this particular industry of cybersecurity and security, right? Mm-hmm. This is quite a bit of, there's a big cultural shift here, right? There's a big cultural shift here working in this industry, and people matter. When you're working, when you're moving into technology, people matter less, quote unquote, but they actually matter more.
Oh, for sure.
So,
For
So
sure.
if we had to leave, if you had to leave us with anything, Deirdre, your parting gracious, great comments. If you had to leave us with anything, whether it's a question or an answer or a statement or a philosophical approach, what would you leave our audience with today?
I would leave everybody with, we have to, what we call it CyberSN PWN, PWN, which is the, tech speak for cyber speak for pwn your career. And that means managing up. We don't have a lot of highly trained managers out in the field. We certainly don't have a lot of EQ training, which is what is really needed to be an effective manager. And so what I'm telling everybody is manage up, and managing up through measurable agreements will save you a lot of headache, a lot of heartache, and get you more promotions, get you more recognition. So what I mean by managing up measurable agreements, I mean you need to have measurable agreements for the work you're doing as to what does done look like. What does you doing a good / great job look like? How will you be measured? And your job is to create that now and keep it updated, because it's not just making the measurable agreements, it's managing them as they continue through the completion cycle, creating new ones, changing them when things change, putting that in writing to your boss, every time there's a change in how you're spending your time. Manage up, manage measurable agreements so that it is very clear whether or not you did a good job or a great job, because nobody comes to work to fail. And yet it doesn't mean you'll be successful just because you come to work. You have to manage. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. Great point. Great point. Deirdre, it has been, as always it is when I talk with you, it has been awesome. It's been great. And the knowledge sharing is consistent and continuous no matter when we talk. I appreciate it very much. And our viewers who are here today, I'm sure they appreciate, of course, there's my phone, I absolutely didn't turn that bad boy off. Apologies.
That's all right. We're so determined. We don't do this perfectly.
Yeah.
It's volunteer.
Yes, because practice doesn't. I hit that like 4 times, Deirdre.
So funny.
Practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes permanent. That's what practice does. So, hey, so I'm speaking now to Matt in the back office. We're at 57. Matt, you can come back with us because we're going to sign out here. Unless there are any questions, Deirdre, are there any questions in the chat?
Oh, just sending lots of love to everybody. Reach out anytime. Check out CyberSN's career resources. They're all free.
Absolutely.
And reach out for anything.
I'm blowing you up over here at the Austin. I'm blowing you up over here at the Austin. When you jump into our portal, our jobs portal, check out CyberSN.
Yes.
They're our champion there.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. Thank you.
Thanks very much, David.
See you soon.
Pleasure as always. You be well. We'll talk soon.
Ditto. Bye-bye.